My therapist literally said, "You're going through it." Like, not these whole, like, medical terms and shit. She literally went like, "Yeah, you're going through it right now." Hello, welcome to the Evolve podcast with me, Lewis, and Sam. It's episode 33. Sam, how's it going?
Doing well. If you can hear by my voice, I have a cold and I tried to heal up before this, but didn't heal up quickly enough. So I did sound nasally. So I'd like to apologize for the terrible sound quality. You'd have to bear with because today, today we're just going to embrace, being in transparent, positive minded, seeking help when we need to be. Being vulnerable is the new term I've been using at work. But before we even dive into that, Lewis, uh, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's been good. There's some positive changes ahead that we will talk about within the next two episodes. So things are looking good. And one of the main reasons for those positive changes, I think, is what we're going to talk about today, which is therapy, isn't it, Samuel?
Yeah, that's definitely what we're talking about today. Yeah, that's the only positive change we've got to talk about
That's the only
today.
positive change I'll talk
That's the
about.
only positive change we're going to talk about today. All other positive changes will come in future episodes. Subscribe, follow us on the podcast Evolve, follow us on all our social media channels that are probably in the description below. Keep tabs on us because you don't want to get to know us once we're already famous because we will know who you are. Simple as that. Get to know us now rather than later. Be in the in crowd. We need to, you know how shits and gigs have cult babies? We should have our own version. We should have something like that. We should have
We
some
need people to listen first.
Yeah, we do. Well, you know what to do then, people, don't you? All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, more importantly, we talk about therapy. I've been through it. Lewis, you're going through it now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like it really shouldn't ever end, but NHS has limited quotas. So, I ticked my boxes and we're doing all right now. We're doing all right in life. I think recent experiences in my life have highlighted that therapy has definitely saved me more than I even knew, based on how I handle stress a bit better. Even as far as how I breathe is different now. And
Mm.
I think in this episode, we're going to touch on, I guess, mainly your therapy experience. I'm going to be asking you their questions. But then I feel like we're also going to touch on, well, we've not planned to, but we should also touch on, and we should remember to touch on. So maybe one of us make a note. Lewis, you do it because I'm bad at keeping my notes. But we should touch on the different forms of therapy people go through. And we're not experts. So we're going to talk from our experience, I think, unless Lewis has done what he does best, which is do bear reading in the background because he's a nerd.
No,
Yeah,
I was gonna refer to you for a lot of the
calm. That's
knowledge part because so I've started well, I suppose it's called talking therapy or
Yep.
cognitive behavioral therapy is my therapist's speciality.
Yep.
Um and before I deep dive into it, I'm gonna explain why. Oh wait, it's therapy. Because I think that's what people would probably be asking. So
Cool.
I actually had a session with this therapist probably 3 years ago. I had like a one session and I just never went back again. Not because it was a bad experience. Honestly, it was purely due to the fact that I felt like I got what I needed for the time. And also it's expensive. Like, not going to be around the bush. It is expensive. Um, and the time I went to this therapist was actually a recommendation. And the reason why I went the first time was because I had this thing which I've talked about a lot, which was I used to compare myself a lot. And it was a part of myself that I didn't like at all. And fortunately now, that's a hurdle which I've overcome. And it's no longer a part of me that I think is a problem. Um, the reason why I decided to go this time was obviously mainly due to work, as I think people have guessed. And the reason why I say work is because I had difficulties with leaving work at work, and I was taking the stress of work into all areas of my life, and it was affecting me in terms of like my sleep, my mood. Like I wasn't really enjoying the gym as much anymore, and the things that I do like even when like I'm on the holiday, I'm thinking about work and the stress of going back to work, and it was making me like the people who know me very well could spot a significant change in my behavior. And particularly over the last few months, it's been particularly stressful because I had fears of losing my job as well as like, and everything that comes with that. Like, oh, I might lose my flat, and what the fuck am I going to do? And it just made my anxiety skyrocket because I basically wasn't being told if I was going to be made redundant or not in a scenario where it 90% sure that I am at risk. And that was when it hit its height. And like, I literally was like waking up at 4 a.m., like just stressing out. And like, yeah, it just wasn't good. And I spoke to my brother about all these stresses, spoke to Rosie about it. And both of them said, like, you should probably go to therapy. And I'll tell you now, Sam, I don't know if I told you this bit, but when I explained all the intricacies of what I was dealing with at work, my therapist literally said, "You're going through it." But not these whole like medical terms and shit. She literally went, "Yeah, you're going through it right now," and I was. Uh, but it's been
It's
very
suffering, bro.
positive. It's been very positive, and you know what? I'm like, I'm very much all or nothing. So the first session, she gave me a lot of ideas of things to kind of like test and trial that work like against like certain triggers and things like that. And so I experimented a lot with different things within those 2 weeks. And then the second session, I basically came back and she was like, a lot of people only do like one or two things, and you did like all of them. Um, but that first session identified like a key part of what helps me and my stress, I would say. I don't know if it's anxiety or stress or not feel good when in regards to work and career stuff. And what she identified is, and I want to do a whole episode on this, is it's very important to me to identify wins within my day, like little wins. Because when I go to work, I feel like I basically have a term I came across recently, which is like a 0 day. Like I feel like it's just like
Mm,
there's no progress at all. Um, and she also we identified a certain number of triggers, like one of which is like I get quite anxious when I have a lot of pressure and like interruptions when people come up to me and things like that. And so she said I should basically gamify it. So in terms of like when people interrupt me at my desk or things like that, or give me a number of requests, like how many of them am I able to deal with there, or push back or delegate, and kind of basically make it fun for myself and kind of
right?
like track it. Um, that's one thing which I have done, which I think is quite good. That works for me
Yeah.
because that's a good measure of how I think a good day is. Like if I have no interruptions, I'm like, oh, this is a pretty good day. Another thing which is grounding, which I think we should do an episode on as well. And
Okay.
grounding is for those who don't know what grounding is, how this is kind of explained to my head, and we talked about the amygdala in the brain, which is a flight or flight response. Grounding is basically becoming hyper aware of saying like things that you can feel, smell, hear, and see, and basically saying like, oh, okay, I can see Sam's brown t-shirt and things like that. And it's basically like centering yourself in your surroundings so your body isn't responding to fear in your head, which isn't real.
It's like a
Um,
quick response to an anxiety attack, that behavior, actually.
yeah.
It's one of the
So
yeah.
so I've said a lot, but yeah,
Mhm. I've got
that's
questions, of
what I
course.
have to
I
report
have
on. Yeah,
questions.
of course you have
So
questions, so go on.
we've dived right into, your first therapy. That wasn't your first therapy experience, has it? You've had a few now,
That
haven't
was,
you had?
I would say that all the things like the grounding and the winds and stuff like
Yeah.
that, that was with I'm not going to refer to the very, very first one I did a few years ago because I think that's
Yeah,
very
we don't
long
count
gone.
that.
But
That was
I'll refer, yeah, I'll refer to
yeah,
this as because this is my intent is actually to continuously do this now.
yeah. Um, why am I asking? So when Rosie and your brother suggested it,
Mm.
how did it make you feel when therapy was suggested? Yeah, how did you make you feel?
Um, to be honest, it's something which I've been umming and ahhing about for honestly all year. The only reason why I don't want to do it again is because I know it's quite expensive. But
Okay.
I have a rule with like a core with like my like 4 or 5 closest mates.
Yeah,
And this applies to like Rosie and my brother and my family. Like if people are telling you something that you can't see, it doesn't matter what I think because I know these people know me well enough. I'm like, okay, fine,
yeah,
I'm doing it. So as soon as I got my brother saying it, and I was like, okay, let's take it quite seriously. And then as soon as like Rosie also said it, like that week, I was like, okay, this needs to become a priority. So as soon as Rosie said it, to be honest, I emailed the therapist like that morning. I was like, okay, I'm
interesting.
just gonna action this straight away because it's if I, it's just when there's a pattern, I'm like, okay, I take it on board, and I don't let my ego get in the way. And the reason for that is because I've seen it happen where people will say to someone, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this,
Mm,
and they don't. And it's kind of like when you spot a it's like when it's like spotting a disease. Like if
mm,
it's like you need to treat it, you need to treat it. The longer you don't treat it, the bigger of an issue it is.
yeah,
So I see it as a treatment to stop things escalating. Is how I treated it.
okay. Why I'm asking that is because, well, everyone has a different everyone has a different reaction to essentially being forced to recognize a vulnerability or being forced to recognize that they need to ask for help. And you get some people who are very much like, nope, I don't need therapy. I don't need therapy. You don't know what you're on about. You get some people that are very much how I was when someone suggested I should go get therapy, which is, although on the outside I think I was very much like, nah, I don't think so. Deep down, I felt seen. I felt like, oh, someone actually does recognize that I need help. Like, when someone goes out of their way to come to you and goes, like, I think you should go and get some help. It's almost like, okay, I've acted tough and it's not working. I need to go get the help I need. And it does give you that sense of you feeling seen. But yeah, there are people who also take it the complete other way and they take offense to that. And I think it seems like you had already mentally prepared yourself, or you've already mentally, let me put it this way, you don't have defenses that are high for certain people compared to others, right? Your defenses aren't high. You're vulnerable to essentially the influence of those people that are closer to you. Your brother being one, Rosie being one, and you allow yourself to be
Yeah,
vulnerable to those people's influence because you trust them. There are many people that need therapy because they have barriers up against everyone.
yeah,
And I would argue they're the hardest people to get through to because it's almost like everyone else close to them sees that there's a problem, but you can't get help until you accept help. It seems like you're already in the mindset where you already were accepting help from these people, so it's easy to get you into therapy. So I think your experience really does like, or will shine a light from my perspective on someone who embraces therapy fully. And why I'm kind of trying to shape this is because I'm very aware from my experience in therapy as well that everyone's obviously very different. Everyone approaches this journey completely differently and takes it from completely different angles. And it's good to maybe see what it's like from your perspective, someone who embraces it, because I think that's what all therapists want people to do. The first few sessions, arguably, you spend that time breaking down barriers, or you spend that time watching your barriers get broken down. Like I remember my first CBT session, it was basically the guy just basically sat there and just like going, mm. And I just kept talking. And then he was like, okay. I'm like, are you going to say anything different, or am I just going to keep rambling on? You're just like, I just want to hear what you've got to say. I was like, I was like, all right. And then I guess with some people, they probably just probe a bit more. I'm just free with it, to be honest. I'm a hoe with my personal information. So I just gave it all up. But yeah. I do think that's everyone requires different criteria. You're probably the great example of being open to that help and actually letting them help you. And I would say that even since you started therapy, your general tone, your energy's changed for the better. I'd say before you were playing Lewis who's happy and positive, whereas now you are Lewis who's happier and more positive. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
I think
I
you
hear what
did
you're
what you
saying.
did to make me feel more positive or to hype me up. You were being a hype man, but now you're just happier. It's the sense I get. And why I feel that way
Mm.
is because you you you'll process negative things in the same like, oh, it's not the best, but it seems more genuine when you process negative things rather than processing rather than when you have like, oh, work has been crap today. It doesn't seem like you're playing a character of someone who isn't as bothered, especially when I'm all up in my feelings and I'm just there and you're trying to be like, Sam, sometimes you just gotta get over it. Like sometimes you gotta push through this and then you react by kind of like trying to keep positive. And I'm just watching it. But now when I watch you and you're trying to keep that kind of positive mentalities, it seems more real. It seems like, yeah, he could be having a bad day. I actually believe he's having a bad day. Or I genuinely believe he's happy. I don't think he's faking being happy just so he can have a positive day today because he needs me to be less miserable. You see what I mean? So then
Mm.
your energy just seems true. That's what I'm saying. And I think it's a really good, I think it's nice to see. It's really good. I'm really excited for the rest of your therapy journey, to be honest. Did you pay for it? Are you paying for therapy or is it NHS?
I'm paying for it. Paying for it.
So that's really good, to be fair. If you can afford to pay for it, that's brilliant. Would you
Yeah.
recommend would you recommend paying for it over NHS? Have you done NHS before?
I haven't actually done NHS before, and to be honest, that's probably more of an lack of education on my part.
Yeah.
And to be honest, because I already had the rapport with uh, the therapist who I'd paid a session for already, it just was I viewed the NHS route as barriers, and I feel like it was just going to take ages. And
Yeah.
because I'm quite organized, the flip side of that is I'm quite impatient. So I know I was able to email this woman, see if I get a response, call,
Yeah.
book you in, this is it. Like, and I think it was just the quickest route. And the thing is, I was looking for if I knew a solution that was quick and I'm willing to pay for it at that point. Because the thing is, the
You
way I
say a
found
Louis
it,
solution or a new solution? It sounded like you
I
said
knew
Louis.
I knew
Sorry.
a solution
Oh,
that
okay.
was
It sounded like you said a Louis solution. I was like, has he just named it after himself? And it just named the Louis solution. I'm gonna I'm using that.
yeah. I knew a solution that was going to be quickly available,
Yeah.
and when I weighed it up, I'd say, oh, do I want to pay £60 for a therapy
Yeah.
session? But at the same time, like if I see like I could go on a night out that week and spend 200 quid and not think it's like a big deal.
I know
So
that.
I knew it was me being a dick and not thinking actually everything. It's like what we said the other week, like your health is the
Mhm.
foundation of everything. That
Yeah.
includes mental. So it actually should be a number one priority, and 60 quid in the grand scheme of things is nothing. So once I actually checked myself and I was like, actually, this is actually more important than not spending 60 quid, it didn't really
I
become a deal at that point. And that's
yeah.
not everyone has that luxury, but
No,
I
that's what I was about to touch on as
do.
well.
And
Exactly.
I don't know, did you go through NHS first time?
Yeah, I did both times. I've done it. I've gone through prepaid versions every time. Now I work for companies that have health insurance. I mean, they still try to push you through NHS, but you do get actual virtual GPs and they're quite good. And when you work with a company that's got a vitality type setup or a Bupa,
Mm.
you do usually get some kind of mental health care. Have I used it? No, because I went through the hyper focus Sam who is here to work. It's 9 a.m. to 5:30 work. You're not taking breaks to go do Zumba classes or to do some virtual cupcake making session. You're here to work. So I didn't really embrace a lot of the benefits of work. At uni, I embraced the free university therapists. Like I've talked to, I think episode 1 and 2, I've talked about this. I have also embraced Trent PTS, which is like they've got a CBT department in Nottingham. It's quite good, but that was during COVID, so I did that virtually. Found that a bit frustrating because I basically had to teach the lady how to use Teams half the time. So half my session. And then the other thing is because it was virtual, I was working in the background whilst I was meant to be doing these sessions. The downside of kind of the NHS experience I've had is you don't have the luxury of choice, or you don't feel like you have the luxury of choice, even if you did, because it's such a long journey. It's such a process you have to go through before you actually get given someone. And the waiting list sometimes can be long. But by the time you get to someone, it's almost like, you know how you've been looking for like a new flat to rent?
Mm.
And like slowly it gets to a point where you just take what you can get for the money you've got because this is just long. Like that's how it
Yeah.
starts to feel. Whereas if you have the money, you also have the luxury of choice and you feel more in control because you're paying for the service rather than you feel gifted the service. And I found that the NHS for someone like me, because back then I was more agreeable. I felt like as soon as the session started, I was just there to use her time wisely and to make sure that I was helping her prove that I was important to her, and I was helping. So like every session, even if whether I made progress or not, I'd fake like I made progress. I became really good at answering the GAD tests in a way that made it like even if I was having a bad day, I knew what answers to say to like make my scores improve. So she'd be like, "Oh, well done, Sam, you're amazing," and like
What is this test?
oh,
I
the
just
GAD test. I have to be careful because there's two versions. Let me Google it before I say what I'm going to say. GAD test. So there's one that's for GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. Good. I wanted to look it up first.
okay.
So that's like the NHS test for anxiety, and then there's another one called like a PHQ or PSHAQ, which looks more at depression and a few other things. And basically, these tests, it's ranking of how depressed or how anxious you are, and you're meant to do it on a regular basis, whether it's daily or whether it's like weekly. You're meant to do it. It's almost like a diary exercise. And I really wanted to, as part of like the next upgrade to our website, once we made like profiles people can access through, I was going to add that as something you could add to your profile. We can do regular GAD tests, and I think it's something we should really consider. So a bit of a sneak peek into the next 5 years, if we last that long, of what the website could have. But ultimately, the test is the same everywhere. It's a standardized test, unless you go private, I guess, and you've come up with their perfect way of doing it. I don't know. And I just realized that, oh, well, if I say I'm doing well, then she'll be proud of me. And it became almost like I was seeking the approval of the therapist.
Mm.
So ultimately, it wasn't benefiting me. I was just doing what she thought. And I hated doing the homework as well. So it just felt like I was going to school. Every session, I just felt like, oh crap, I've got to do my homework. I've got to do this thing. And there's always so much paperwork you have to do. Like she'll be like, oh, I want you to look at this like I want you to look at this like exercise, and I'll open it. It's like 3 pages long. I'm like, why is this like a 3-point exam question for this exercise I'm meant to be doing in my free time? And I'll be looking at it, so
Mm.
I'm not doing this. So ultimately, I hated that therapy experience, and I've not enjoyed many of it. The only time I've really, really enjoyed it was the one at uni that was just straight up just talking, just sitting there and talking and listening and processing thoughts. And I think it was just being understood. And what I come to find that for me, my perfect therapist is a male like me. The guy I had was really good, but he was white. I do think there's a cultural necessity sometimes in therapy. I do think that is the one time where you should be discriminatory to who you get the help from. I get that everyone's equal, skilled in their own way. I get that men and women have specialities in many ways. We're great equal, and that's fine. But I think when it comes to therapy, you need to find the person that's perfect for you. And whether race is a factor in that, whether religion is a factor in that, whether gender is a factor in that, you need to consider all of that and remove all the societal barriers as to why you're going with that therapist. Because ultimately, you need someone that you can feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable around, and you need to have someone that you can also get rid of any unconscious bias, so you're really free to be who you are. And I think through NHS and through these like charitable services, that's really hard to get. It's really hard to argue that. And every therapist I've been to has given me the same advice of make sure I'm right for you. If it's not working out, we can start the process again. But unlike you in terms of I'm not going to wait another month to get assigned a new therapist. Like just give me the
Mm.
workbook. Let me do what I can do, and then we'll talk about it when we talk about it. So yeah, I've come to find though there are different forms of therapy, and I think we'll touch on that later. But that was my experience with NHS. Is it felt like a box ticking exercise for the most part. And I think once you pay for a service, you really do feel like you're there, you belong there. It's almost like the people that pay for uni themselves and the people whose parents pay for them. there tends to be a
Mm.
considerable difference in performance. Like when you get to master's degree, you meet more people who are paying their way through uni because you don't get as much student loan, you don't get as much you don't get as much benefits in general, and you seem to see better performance. People are there to learn. Like I am now making sacrifices. Student finance isn't pushing me through this like it used to. I'm now making sacrifices. Whereas the people who are there because their parents have paid off the whole thing and they've literally got nothing to lose, you tend to see that they don't perform as well unless they were already gifted before. So I do think when you have to already invest into something, you have to get the most out of it. And it's almost like this sense of I don't want to feel scammed. And that's what I see in your journey of because you're paying for it, you're making that sacrifice. You have to get your money's worth out of the experience. So you're fully embracing it. And we're seeing the positive change off the back of it. Um, there are cheaper alternatives though, aren't there? This isn't a paid for episode, so we can probably like talk about some, but did you ever consider things like BetterHelp and all these apps that you see YouTube videos for?
I did. The only reason why I didn't go through BetterHelp is because I saw that there are a lot of different experiences, and a lot of those people weren't actually. I don't know what the names of the qualifications were, but apparently there are a lot of people on BetterHelp who are therapists or counselors that aren't actually fully qualified, and also I'm gonna be honest, I did kind of look into it, but there was like a whole sort of like fill out this document and da 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 da. And for me, because I already had that rapport with the therapist before, it was just very easy to go back to the last email and be like, "Hey, it's been a long time. I want to restart this bi-weekly. Like, what can we do?" And it was literally all done over email. It wasn't like through an app or whatever. Like, it's not done that way. And so for me, is a lot more casual setup for me. And we just kind of had a back and forth. And so the reason why I like that is because it doesn't feel like a subscription. I can stop whenever I want. Better hope you're locked in. Um, and if I go, hey, don't want to do the session, or I want to skip these weeks, or I actually want to change it to monthly or whatever, like I feel very flexible and I know that it's very much on me. So the things that she recommends to me, like she's not gonna, you know, call it out in the next one. Like that's for me to do. So the work is very much on me and I don't feel like I'm being forced to do some exercises that I don't want to do, that I don't feel like will work. And so it's kind of like she's given me a menu of things to work on, and it's for me to pick what I want to do and test and experiment with. Um, so yeah, I did look into that, but for me, it was I wanted a quick but long term solution, and
Does your
I think
company
it's
not
worked out
offer
quite well.
therapy? Do they not have like
Um,
mental well-being services? The one you work for right now?
I think, to be honest, I think they do, but the way that I am, I don't want them going anywhere near me in terms of my mental space.
Yeah.
That's I put it.
You don't want to, and I think that's the thing. A lot of when my redundancy process started, one of the first things they sent as part of like my redundancy notice or package was a link to the wellbeing services that was available to me. And I clicked it and I just looked at it. I just like this is just a long waiting list of like homework, of like workbooks and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. And I do think that if you are an entrepreneur looking to start your own business, one piece of note to take is to consider immediately what well-being service you'd want to include for your employees, because health is wealth. Making sure people mentally are strong enough and capable enough to go through what they need to go through and still work for you is very vital. I think more businesses should do it, not just to tick the box so they can put it on the job advert that, hey, you get well-being as part of the packages, but actually to care about how that well-being service is provided. I
Mm.
think that's quite important. I think if you can't afford it and you wanted to take a similar route to me, explore doing it through your company for sure. Explore doing it through NHS and explore what other charitable organizations could give you the same service. And why I'm saying that is I'm not saying pick one and go with that. You can get the sense of choice by going through multiple processes at the same time rather than just one like I did. What I wish I did was I applied through work, I applied through NHS, I applied directly through Trent PTS, I applied through, I mean, NHS, you go through your GP to get to it a bit quicker. But I wish I tried all these avenues like Mind and all these places at the same time. And then at least each one would give me some form of therapist that I can pick out of. Is that a very selfish approach? Yes. Is it resource intensive in an era where we need as much resource as possible? It is. But what I'm saying is this is a selfish journey in general. You need to make yourself better. You're not doing it just, you might have dependents like kids or family that you need to look after, but ultimately you need to focus on yourself and making you better. That's why you're seeking therapy, and you shouldn't be ashamed to do it. If you need to play the system in a way where you get the most out of it and become the best version of yourself, do it and then pay it forward. That's what I've tried to do. At least that's what I tried to do with Financial Section. But I didn't scam the system. I feel like I didn't scam it properly, if anything. So I just went with NHS and stuck with that until I got a therapist who is amazing in her own right. It's just she wasn't the therapist for me. So I didn't really embrace it well. I think all her diagnosis was 100%. Don't get me wrong. She wasn't wrong about the dyslexia that I had already had confirmed. She wasn't wrong about the ADHD that psychologists for the dyslexia assessment had already confirmed. OCD, she hit the nail on the head because I do have OCD, and it shows in its own way. She diagnosed me perfectly, but the journey of actually fixing the problem, it didn't help that I was being reminded how many sessions we had left. It didn't help that naturally I'm not on time anyway for anything. So if I turn up to a session, you tell me that if I'm like 20 minutes late, the session's over, that's not going to work with me. I'm just going to just accept that I'm 20 minutes late and not turn up at all. So, and I will just Google the answers for today's session because the internet exists. Like I will just go look up, this is the result I got on this workbook. What I did to make myself better. I am self-sufficient, and I will, and the thing is, I was self-sufficient to my own detriment. So I'll go and
Mm.
find the answers for myself, whether or not it was the right way to do it. Because ultimately the talking therapy is talking through the process, not just finding out what's wrong with you and skipping because I've got my diagnosis now. So yeah, there's no more so. That's simply it. I think you should be selfish. You should embrace the system in a way that benefits you because ultimately you're seeking to help yourself and hopefully those around you. The other consideration is around the fact that you need to embrace that this is a lifelong journey. You've not got some kind of like chest infection that this will just cure and everything will be perfect. You need to embrace that if you're embarking on the journey of therapy, you need to get the exit plan out of your head. It's what I wish I did because I'm quite impatient. I'm looking for the solution. I'm looking to become the perfect human being. And at the end of this 3 week session, or at the end of these 9 sessions, I'm going to be sat on a yacht chilling because I've got the perfect. No, I'm going to be sat in some Zen garden relaxing because I've got the world's best mental health status, right? And that's not the case at all. I think it's starting therapy for most people is embracing a new way of living because a lot of us start therapy at a time in our life where I personally believe our brain is perfect. It's wired that way. Therapy is a treatment in my eyes. I wonder if you see it in the same way, Lewis. But I don't think therapy is a cure. I think it's a treatment. I don't think there is a cure in the sense of everyone's wired differently. You go through therapy to become clearer about your brain's wiring and how better to use it and feel at
Mm.
peace with it. In a sense, being at peace means you're cured, but you've got to keep going to therapy because life will keep changing. Life will keep throwing you new curveballs and challenges. And therapy helps you to consistently and dynamically handle those challenges in life. You can't predict the future. Because of that, you need to commit to that lifelong journey. So you're paying 65 a week and maybe it will reduce to you just go monthly, right? But
Yeah.
regardless, there will be a consistency in that you will always see value in that therapy. You become dependent on it. Like it'll be like, it's a psychological dependency as well, because you start to see that, okay, I really need this. And you have coping mechanisms and ways to live your life normally. But there will be new challenges that will be really hard that come into your life. And therapy will be the most efficient solution for you to actually handle those challenges. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's no different to you going to a family member or a friend and talking to them about your problems. It's just that you've also now got a paid professional that knows actually how to perfectly handle you and how to get you through this. It doesn't devalue your family or friends. But yeah, I've rambled on a bit there.
No, that's good, man. Yeah, I agree. It's yeah, sort of cure, it's a treatment. It's like the common cold. You
Yeah.
always get one.
But
Sometimes you don't get it for sometimes you don't get it for 6 months. You might get it
exactly.
2 weeks back to back. Yeah, I completely agree. And I hope that I stay with it. Like, no matter how good I feel, I want to continue with it because there's going to be, when you're on a high, there's issues that come with that when you're on the win, because you then might become anxious, be like, okay, I've now gone
Mm.
through this, and you might then, like, I know for me, when I experience like a win and everything seems fine, I'm now like anticipating the next problem. So again, that's something I need to talk through with my therapist about. And again, it's just good to have an impartial. For me, it's kind of like a vacuum. It's like a safe, and it's like, because even though I can speak to my mom, who's actually becoming a qualified counselor, and I can speak to Rosie, I can speak to my friends, but at the same time, these are people that you interact with. They're your friends. Like, they're not. It's not completely like locked away. And for me, it's kind of like that's what how my therapist kind of serves me in a way. It's like, I know I can say whatever I want without any sort of judgment that I really care about, because we don't have that relationship. And it feels very freeing. It's like there's no guilt, like, because I know that it's not there to be judged, it's there to be observed. Do you know what I mean? Um But there is one thing I wanted to kind of talk to you about, because I've now seen this happen too many times, um, particularly with with people who are quote unquote ambitious, driven, who, and notice a difference of a period when they're not going through therapy, and then they start therapy, and all of a sudden things fall in place and things begin to U-turn and stuff like that. I've seen it happen
Mm.
a lot. And do you think, particularly now linking this back to startup founders,
Yeah.
businesses, and things like that, do you think, obviously with like therapy, everyone should do it. I do believe that. But do you think it's actually critical for startup founders?
I don't think it's I'll be honest, I don't think it's critical.
Oh, critical is
Uh,
probably
I
too strong, but do
yeah,
you
I don't think you'll
think
fail
it's,
if you don't get therapy.
yeah, but do you think it's
It's
another.
vital or valuable. Yes, I think it's very, very valuable. Why I say that is most startup in this day and age, we've touched on it in other episodes. Being a startup or entrepreneur is kind of seen as it's more admirable if you've suffered through the journey. And if you've done it solo, it's almost like, oh my God, look, this amazing person. Because most entrepreneurs who put on stage are to talk from their perspective. And from that point of view, there's no value. If I got put on a stage and I got paid £300, £300,000, £300, I'm not going to say £300, £300,000, right? If I got put on stage for that much, um, I would not spend the whole time talking about you, Lewis, right? Because they paid if the description of my service for that week is to come on and talk about my journey as an entrepreneur and what I have done to become successful. And the reason why I'm there is because everyone thinks I'm super amazing. I'm God's gift to the earth on my business acumen. I'm going to focus on my personal journey about business acumen. I'm going to focus on my personal journey about entrepreneurship. And will I talk about you and that experience? Of course I will. Will I talk about all the friends I've worked with in businesses through that journey? Of course I will. But arguably, all these people will play about 10% at most, maybe 50% of the focus, because the rest of it is everything from my perspective. Me, I. This is what I did. This is what I didn't do. There'll be a lot of just reflection on me. The audience will be watching that, and when they paint the picture in the head of the journey, the consistent face throughout that whole picture is me. So everything from Sam's POV or Sam growing up as a child or Sam, they just constantly are envisioning different versions of me. And that makes it so easy to see entrepreneurial journey as a solo journey, as a lonely suffering journey, because it's all me, I. Um, and I think what that's putting out into the world is that behavior of we're now basically feeding the beast of more entrepreneurs thinking they have to be solo, they have to suffer. It's okay to do sleepless nights and get things done. It's okay to like balance multiple things throughout the day. And it makes that suffering so admirable that people, I think, to a degree, actively seeking help as a weakness. We are now seeing the growth of entrepreneurs being honest about seeking therapy, but arguably, they're seeking therapy now, they're already successful. So now it's set that check mark of, once I become successful like this person, then I'll get the help I need. And then, but you, like we've both gone through, that goalpost always moves because you always find someone else who's more successful that you aspire to be, even when you reach that original goal you wanted. And then at what point do you cross that line when you get therapy? So I think it's highly valuable for anyone who is, let me put a time marker in. You are 3 months into your entrepreneurial journey. Let's put that in. The definitive 3 months you're committed to it. You should have already looked into getting some kind of therapy to understand more about yourself. And paid for therapy, because NHS therapy will only let you do it when you're failing the GAD test to an extreme level. Like, they do an assessment at the start and they see how bad you are, and then they'll give you the help. But if you can afford it, you should be indulging some of your money into paid for therapy to prepare your mind. Um, why is that? Why I kind of pivoted in between, is it critical and is it valuable? It's valuable. It's not critical. It's not critical because I think therapy is a version. The therapy we know of, like the talking therapy, sitting in front of an expert and talking to them, it's a version of mindfulness. I think the success comes when people just being more mindful, being more aware of what their strengths and weaknesses are, people being more aware of their trigger points and how to navigate them. I found that although I don't enjoy therapy as much because I prefer the actual actions rather than going home and doing paperwork, I really enjoyed being able to sit with someone who's very mindful. And my Thai boxing coach, Lee, is amazing at that. Like, he just reads me like a book. He gets it. And admittedly, he basically teaches me through punishment, like doing the training sessions, doing more, pushing my physical limits. So I get a sense of achievement, but he will not hesitate to stop and just talk through life with me and just talk through like things. And he's not an expert in my job. He's not an expert in my life. We're not from the racial background. So that whole cultural thing falls out the window, like I was saying earlier. But he understands me well enough that I'm happy to sacrifice those other requirements that I would say a person should follow through on. And he gets it enough to be able to sit there and be like, if you want to achieve these things, I think you should go ahead and do it. But you need to be mindful of making sure you're getting your rest, doing all these things. And it's almost like, it's not that he's an expert, is that I recognize, similar to how you've got Rosie and your brother and everyone else, I recognize that I'm happy to be vulnerable to this person because he's got my best intention at heart. He's looking out for me. He's got a track record of leading people to success. I see, as my team is filled with people who are literally on minimum wage to people who already have their own who are millionaires and have their own like multiple sources of income. They don't fight for money, to be honest. They just come to training and they're them kind of man. But the ones who are like on the bread line, I guess to a degree, they fight for their money. And you see different, but regardless, I see all of them as evidence of people who trust him to be vulnerable and open to him. So that allows me to be vulnerable and open. It allows me to be mindful. And I think it's that practice of mindfulness that leads to success. If you're just pretending to be a character, half your mind, half your brain is, half your mental capacity is spent on maintaining that character. The other half is actually spent on doing what needs to be done. However, if you embrace who you are, you just let the universe do its thing. You just focus on doing what needs to be done. That's it. You take away the like extra effort of having to pretend in front of people, and you just focus on doing a good job, asking the right questions, getting yourself in front of the right people, all these things, rather than pretending to be an expert because you think that'll make you more money. So I think therapy is valuable. I think it's clearer to basically say, is it critical to be mindful?
Mm, yeah. No, that's good, man. I think, yeah, I agree. And from my perspective as well on this, and this is just coming from my experiences so far, it's helped me clarify why I'm doing certain things. And
Mm.
one of the main things that I have very much it's made everything a lot clearer to sum up, like why I want to do these things and what definition, what how I define success for myself is now I can sum it up in like a few, like 2 sentences now. And for me, success is
I was gonna say, go on then, tell us.
I very so I define me being successful as being able to be relied upon, and that is in my relationship, and that's also in my career. in my relationship is very much being relied upon for mental support, emotional support, financial support, and being able to kind of look after Rosie and like, you know, whatever future family we will have. And in work, I like to be someone can help out with at work who feels like they know their stuff, um, and knows who to go to if I don't know what is going on. So basically kind of like being knowledgeable in that sense. So reliable is how I kind of define success for myself. So whilst these things such as like, you know, Forbes 30 under 30, which is great, and, you know, being seen on stage and, you know, having a crowd like idolize me, those things are great. However, for me, what actually makes me feel good sustainably is I've helped people who I care about, and in my job, I can be relied upon to do what I need to do. Um, and also you have the other part of like, I enjoy what I do and things like that, but I think that's slightly different. But in terms of the actual core, can I actually be relied upon to do what I need to do and make a good job of it is kind of what
Yeah,
it is
I
for
agree.
me.
Do you not feel
And
like it takes
that's
you
kind
away
of,
from the Go on, right.
sorry, I was saying.
Sorry. Sorry. No, I was gonna say, do you not feel like that goal of being reliable puts you more in a service provider position rather than the traditional entrepreneur position of being like rich, famous, I guess to a degree, but rich,
Um,
wealthy, able to achieve anything you want to do kind of journey? Do you not
I
feel
mean,
that takes you further away from that entrepreneurial journey? And I do find that as well, that people who kind of engage in therapy get comfortable can also be in a position where being entrepreneur is no longer what you want to do because you realize that that was a once that was there because of some other trigger that was unhealthy.
so I'll let you answer this for me because
Okay.
I know what I want to do is edit. If it's like editing films, editing
Yeah.
film trailers, and things like that. I said this in the very first episode. The only reason why I started the business is because I didn't go to film school, and it was the easiest way for me to start like editing for people and earning money from it. So that is in its core what I want to be doing. I'm not passionate about starting up businesses and selling for profit. Like that stuff isn't enjoyable to me.
Mhm.
The entrepreneurial aspect of it and the business starting of it was to do what I want to do, which is the editing stuff. Now, this is why I don't consider myself an entrepreneur because I'm only doing it to enable the thing that I want to do. Say, for example, now, if if one day Mr. Netflix or whatever is like, look, if we want to pay you 100K a year to edit film trailers or whatever, I'm doing it. Does that mean I want to then like I don't need to then do all this other stuff because I'm doing what I need to do, and also I can fulfill all those other things of I can be relied upon to support my family, and I get to do what I enjoy. So, do I need a business and do I need to feel like an entrepreneur? No, I get to do what I want to do, and I can support my family doing it. So, what else would I want? So,
I hear that.
you see what I mean?
I I will answer it for you then. So I don't think you ever wanted to be an entrepreneur, like you said. I don't think you ever wanted. I think you've been looking for the justification why not to want that, if that makes sense. I think you've been on like a discovery journey of, I know I don't want to be your typical entrepreneur who's basically just focused on the money and securing the bag. You've been chasing this, being a producer, being an editor journey for a while now, and you're getting closer and closer to your goals around this. You every day we talk about it, you've made another step towards success on this journey. And that step hasn't been towards, not necessarily towards becoming a leader of other people that do it, becoming the CEO of people that do it. That step, the steps have led you closer to becoming good at the core granular job itself. And it seems like, you know, every time I ask you, like, "Oh, you're gonna set up a film studio, you're gonna do all these things," because in my head, that's what I would want to do, right? I would want to get in a position where I'm kind of managing the business around it and the stakeholder and all these things. That's what my mind is geared for. You're focused on the craft itself, the creativity, the
Yeah.
passion around the work that gets done. And
Yeah. Yeah.
is it easy to become a millionaire and all this doing this? No, it isn't. It's definitely easier to do what I'm trying to do, which is con other people like you to do it. Yeah, that basically run everyone, because that's what a CEO basically does, right? You put yourself in a position of a higher position where you've got this fake sense of dominance where you direct people around, but it's basically you're just a really good stakeholder manager that moves people around into the right places so they can find their little bits of success, and collectively they add towards your greater success of more money. Um, but yeah, that's basically what I'm saying of like, you are happy, not to say that it's menial, not to say that it's lower, but you're more than happy and comfortable with the learning of the passion and letting that lead you in the journey towards success. And I think that's the most fulfilling way to see things. I think you come from a family that is obviously business dominant. Your brother's doing very well in business. Your dad's a very good financial mind and all these things. And I think in the most traditional sense possible, you have to excuse yourself to follow a passion occupation rather than just becoming a boss, a CEO, and running multiple teams, right? You have to excuse. And I think I'm assuming therapy has validated your path towards success in making you realize that this is the right path for you. This is successful for you. And these this new job opportunities you're exploring off the back of of your therapy has, if anything, validated that this is the right track you're on, because you are eventually going to see the money, but most importantly, you're going to see the money and be fulfilled in the same way, rather than your typical entrepreneur like myself who just has focused so much on the money that when I do get the money, will I be fulfilled? Probably not. I probably want more money and more money, because the passion of the
Mm.
craft itself has not been honed in for me. Like every skill I've learnt it with an ulterior motive in mind. I learned to code so I can talk to devs. I've learned to do this so I can become. I basically found different ways to become an entrepreneur, but through life, I've also realized that being a stakeholder manager is bloody stressful, and it's probably not where my passion lies as much as maybe I thought I wanted to be.
Yeah.
You're on a
Yeah.
journey of being okay with not being the world's greatest boss,
Yeah,
basically.
I'm perfectly fine with that. There is one, like, if I see an opportunity within the editing and film space that I think I could make a company from, that's different. And there is one thing that
Yeah.
I think I may have spoken to you about it before, but we could revisit that. But because now I have a lot more mental clarity because of everything that's happened the past few weeks.
Mhm.
It it can enable a few things. So I'm not to say, like, you know, oh, I'm never going to start a business. If I see an opportunity and I think I have a unique
Yeah.
perspective, that is different. But the whole thing, like, if I see something that can service film industry that I think I can do and make something better, I will do it, because ideally, selfishly, it's to service myself more than anything. Like, I'm not going to make a company about doors because I found a new way that doors can be better. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Whereas
it's gonna
that's
be
what I
something
would
that
fixate on.
yeah, right? Whereas
I would
I'm
fixate
only
on
gonna
that,
do
yeah.
it, like, and I've always been this way, like, in school, like,
Mm.
I'm only good at things I give a shit about. Like,
Yeah.
I could, like, for example, if someone say, "Oh, Lewis, so we're gonna give you X amount to say X amount being really good salary to shovel shit every single day,"
Mhm.
like, I'm just not gonna do it. Like, I'm just not gonna engage with it. Like, I need to care. And what I've noticed in my brother and entrepreneurs, much like
Mm.
yourself, like, you would do that because the money
Yeah.
is the value to you, it's the driver. Whereas for me,
Yeah.
I need to feel it. I have a bit of a creative. My brother's like, "Oh, you and your bloody creative." So I have more of a creative.
You're creative, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say my skill set makes me a good product manager because I can find interest in any shit. I can find
yeah,
interest in any menial thing because I will convince myself it's fun if I have to, and then eventually I'll just see it as fun, no matter how boring it is. Yeah, I've had
Mm.
so many jobs that have been so blood. Like now, I look back at it, I'm just like, that is literally mind numbing what I was doing. But back then, I found a way to find value in what I was doing, and it's almost like being able to trick yourself as part of the entrepreneurial journey. Of if you found something that
Mm.
will give you that lifestyle you want, you trick yourself into being so passionate about it that you will literally hurt yourself mentally and physically
Yeah.
to achieve the most boring task in the world.
I think finding value is definitely is key, because if you
Yeah,
can't find anything valuable and you can't see the
exactly.
impact that you're having,
Yeah,
and that's a big thing for me as well, like in the jobs that I'm doing. Like if I can understand why, then it makes sense to me. So for example, that's why in therapy, when we'll talk about grounding and like, okay, what does grounding do? Like, what does box breathing actually do? Like the
yeah.
science behind it. Like I like knowing the intricacies of why things work and why it's supposed to work, as
Whereas
opposed to being like, oh, just do it. Like I can't just go off that.
exactly. In my therapy journey, though, normally I would want to know the intricacies, but I'm also sat there like, I've got better things to be doing. Can you just tell me how to breathe 4 times? And then I'm gonna go no. Like, thank you, bye. That's how I. So like,
Mm,
I think CBT works great for you. It doesn't work. It didn't work as good for me because I didn't like the homework. I wasn't really. Well, I was there because someone told me to be there. I wasn't there halfway through. I wasn't there because I wanted to be there. Um, I'd say one thing about you that does frustrate me is you have all the qualities you have a lot of qualities required to be a really good CEO in terms of your approach, your communication. And I find that people who have a lot of these skills aren't bothered. It's just me up. It's so consistent that I find a lot of these skill sets in people. And I think there's an extra caveat that comes into play, and that is the desperation for the label. I don't think you can
mm,
have both. I don't think you can be a really good CEO and be desperate to be a CEO. And that's what I'm trying to correct in myself, because I think that's what was wrong with me, was I was desperate to be a successful CEO. And I think it's more vital to be passionate about what you're doing and how the impact it has, like you are, and then let the leadership quality come through experience and let the money come through the good work you do, rather than focusing on having the leadership quality and having the money. It's like the benefits of being a good CEO are also symptoms of enjoying what you do. If you're a really good
mm.
CEO, I think the benefits that you get from that are just symptoms of you just doing what you like. If you really like editing, you're really passionate to a point where people are like, oh my God, Lewis, I want to learn from you. And then all of a sudden you've got like a group of people in your group chat who are always coming to you for advice, and you're happy to give it because you know your stuff. And eventually like you sign up to an agreement and you're like, oh, hey guys, can you help me with this project? And then they're like, yeah, I can help you with it. And now you've got your own like studio or crew that kind of follows you around, and you do projects together and you're having fun with it. And next thing you know, they've got their own minions who are doing the same thing. And now, hold on a minute, let's just set up a company. Now we've got a movie studio, and now you're doing this, you're doing that, but we're real passionate and enjoying it. That's how I see your journey making you accidentally a CEO without you even noticing it.
I'll be
Whereas
fuck. I don't want
Lewis,
this.
Lewis would be sat at the board being like, what the fuck happened? It's like
Be there in a
you'd
suit.
you'd be there soon, like,
Why?
and then I'm just going to call you.
Hoodie. Yeah.
I'm gonna call you and be like, I told you. I told you this would happen. See what I mean? But
Piss me
like
off.
for
Yeah.
me, I was looking at it from the complete different angle of wearing the suit, being in the board meetings, all these things. They were the outcomes I was chasing. And
Mm.
that's all you could easily achieve that by being an executive assistant as well. So like I could just achieve all those outcomes. And I realized that I'll change. So my journey right now is being focused on just embracing the journey toward things. And ultimately, I've come to realize that I'm not come to realize it's something I've always repeated, but I think the path to achieving it, I'm getting better at fine tuning. And that is to be free. I just want
Mm.
to, and this is how selfish my want to be free is. I want zero responsibilities. Like for me to really enjoy the universe the way I want to, I don't want to be accountable for anything. And that's how great that outcome is for me of I want to wake up in the morning. Like when I say I want to do side quests, I think people just assume like, oh, I do side quests and then I do a bit of admin on the side, like I do these. No, Lewis, I want to wake up and just decide we're going to Hawaii. with zero responsibilities of how I'm going to afford that. It's just the money's just there. Everything just happens. I basically want to wake up in heaven on a regular basis. And it's, I want that mainly because I think around me, I've put so many constraints and shackles and so many ways I do things. I want to be free from myself in a weird way. Obviously, I don't want to die. I want to be enjoy my life, but I want to be free from the restrictions I've placed around me and the restrictions that have been placed around me in life. Now, as you get older, you start to realize, like I'm starting to realize, there's different passions I'm now having. Like I want to be a dad one day. I want to have a massive family around me, and it's not just about being a kid with a race car bed when I'm older. It's about having like memories, a legacy, having all these things. And then I come back to the point where I was like, oh, to do that, I have to do paperwork at some point. So then it's now I'm trying to just embrace the journey in terms of not just being free, but being comfortable with the balance of work and play and
Mm.
having a good balance. And I think to be really comfortable with the balance of work and play, you need a lot of money to be able to play with. But I don't want to be fixated on the money. I want to be fixated on getting myself in more and more higher value positions that allow me to work as hard as I work now, but really be able to play the way I want to play. Does that make sense? Like if I want to,
I hear you.
if I want to do a side quest and take the kids to Disneyland, Florida, we do that. And my assistants would be there to kind of make sure that the meetings and everything's are covered. I can jump in there. I still want to be retired at the age of 40 and just have loads of investments and then be comfortable in that. But ultimately, it's because I don't want to be stuck in meetings every day. I want to be spending time with my family and those close to me.
Mm.
And over time, more recently, I would say my wish to be free has become less selfish and less about not having responsibilities. It's just been about not having to do things that ultimately won't be on my legacy.
Yeah.
Like
I
being
feel
on a
like
board meeting on a Monday,
mm,
that's not going to be on my gravestone. Like that's not
yeah,
going to be.
that's true.
Why am I
I
doing
feel like I don't think you want complete freedom of responsibilities. I feel like you want freedom of responsibilities that you don't want. So
Everyone wants freedom of responsibilities. I don't want. That's why they don't want
so
it.
that but that's what I'm saying. Like you said you want a family. Your family is a massive responsibility, but you
It
want that
is.
responsibility. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. But that's because I don't see it as a responsibility in a sense. I see it as an achievement, and it's. Do you get what I mean? It's like you see,
Yeah,
like
I
okay,
understand what you
let me
mean.
paint it this way: responsibility to me right now means work,
Mm.
and I don't see having kids in my life as work. I see it as like a passion. I see it as like something I can really enjoy doing. It's not a task that needs to be completed. Like that's probably the better way to put it. Let's throw the word
I'm
responsibility in the
wanna
bin.
I
I
wanna
want to have
save
less
this.
tasks in my life.
I wanna save this bit for when you have a kid and they're pissing you off, and it's your responsibility to deal with it. It's not all gonna be like, "Oh, dad, we're gonna do this." You're gonna be like,
Right,
"This kid's
shut
pissing
up.
me off," but it's my
Yeah, but look, see it
responsibility
this way. See it
to
this way.
parent.
Let's be honest. Will I be pissed off because I can't spend time with the kid, or will I be pissed off because I'm trying to concentrate on work and they're distracting me from concentrating on work, which ultimately I'm pissed off that I'm doing? That's how I'm
Mm,
seeing it. Like, if I'm in a position in life where they want to play with dad and I can generally just stop everything and go play with them, there's nothing wrong. There's no like risk to me not doing this one form right now. There's no risk to me not typing this email right now. I can just get up and go do that. It won't
yeah.
piss me off. I'll just enjoy it. That's where I want to be in life. But you need money. You need a lot of things to be able to get there. You need hard work to be able to get there. And I think that's what I've realized is the outcome I want. And I do see therapy in its many ways, shape, or form, whether it's more exercise, whether it's spending time with friends like you and having mindful discussions, wherever it is, I see it playing a part in shaping that journey and making it bearable.
Mm.
Ultimately, it's what you want.
Question.
You want the hard parts to be bearable.
I have a question for you because I remember you said this in a few episodes, and this is something which I wanted for myself, but I actually genuinely, and I'm very glad I could not give less of a shit now.
What's up?
And I mentioned it a few minutes ago. Forbes 30 under 30.
Do I want that still like I
Yeah.
did before? No,
Do you want it?
I
Good.
don't.
I'm glad.
I don't want it anymore.
And this is something
I don't
because my
want people
yeah,
to know when I become a millionaire, when I become a billionaire, wherever it is, I don't want people to know.
I'm the exact same.
I don't want to be known for having money because even with like whatever money I earn now, there's a lot of people that covet it. There's a lot of people that would be like, oh, let's do this. Oh, how about we invest in this? Or how about we do this? That's part of the responsibilities I don't want. I don't want to be someone else's breadwinner. I just want to look after my friends and my family in my own way. I want to experience life with them. I want to, if I'm making someone close to me's life easier, it's because I value the time I have spent with them and I see whether they're doing this a distraction to that nice time we could be spending. So if I'm trying to like have a really good time with you and we've been best friends for years before I got rich, because like I think you have to be careful around who you hang around with when you've got a certain amount of money. I've seen my dad do it, I've seen my uncles do it. When you get a certain amount of money, it attracts the wrong kind of people sometimes. But if I'm spending time with people like you, Luke, wherever it is, and you're basically going on about how like, oh, you've got to set up this means and you've got to get this investment, and I've got like 1 billion or something like that in my account through like another means, I'm getting you that money so you can focus on just having a good time right now with me, or you can just focus on being happier because that is more valuable to me. The time we spend with people you care about is more valuable, I think, in life than all this like getting up at 9 to 5 and working. It's more important to do it if you need to pay the bills, of course you do, because ain't no way I'm going to enjoy life if I'm homeless, right?
Mm.
But I want to be in a point where the money makes itself, and I can really just enjoy life for what it is, and I can find joy in helping others when I want to, not because I have to, not because some
Yeah.
charity run up to me and I've got billions and they guilt trip me into paying, but because I was walking like I do. Like if I'm walking to Sainsbury's and I've got money, I'll buy that guy food, just because it it's my choice and it feels good to have the freedom to just make that choice without any repercussions. So
Mm.
yeah, that's what I want in life. That's why I work this hard. But that mindset of not having 430 under 30, that mindset of not being a millionaire by 30, all these things, getting rid of that has taken a massive weight off my shoulders. Arguably, I know we talked the focus of today's episode of therapy. Switching anxious extrovert off has taken a massive weight off my shoulders as well, because I realized I was doing it because I wanted to be rich one day, not because I really cared. And now I've switched it off. I have so many new ideas about how I can do like the well-being stuff, but from actually actionable perspectives. I've got so many ideas of how I can do it in a way I enjoy it. I've got new ideas about how I can get. Am I going to jump in on all of them? No, because I'm not greedy about the money it will make me. I don't think I'm going to miss out on any money if someone else does it first. I just have an idea and like project ideas that I think will be fun to do when I've got the capacity to do it. And take away that become a millionaire by 30 pressure away means that I can make a note of it and come back to it when I have the capacity to look at it, rather than try and burn myself out doing that and then everything else I'm doing right now. So yeah, I'm really embracing my new mindset. Let's see how long it lasts. Um, if someone pisses me off at work, it might change and then I have to become a millionaire to get rid of them. Um, it might also just be because I've got a cold and I can't be bothered to beef with life at the moment, but I am enjoying the mindset I have right now. One thing I do feel is in these pods, and as we get closer to rounding things off, in these pods, I feel like when I'm having a very positive mindset, I speak it out in the pod, and almost like my brain re-gears into ways where I can now work against myself. And I think that's something I need to work on. I need to work on not defeating myself because I've said it in the pod now. It's like when I say it out loud, it's like the box is ticked and I give up on it. And I need to be better at just nailing it in and being consistent, because we've had a lot of good episodes in our journey right so far. A lot of episodes that people have come to me and said they've learned from. But then I find myself making the same mistakes again, and the consistency is because I'm saying it. And by saying it, it's almost like I've told myself I've done it, so I don't need to worry about it anymore. I get lazy.
You're taking from the tank, from saying and doing, Sam. It's dangerous. It is
Exactly.
dangerous. It is dangerous.
It is.
And it's very easy to fall into. But no, man, I think we'll round it off there. This has probably been one of my favorite ones. This has been really
It has been. It's been so chilled. I should have a cold more often.
awesome. If you guys enjoyed, let us know. Let us know your experiences if you've been in therapy as well.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Engage with us, please. Yeah, give us a follow on Spotify, YouTube, the podcast Evolve, on TikTok, Instagram, all them things there. And we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Peace.
Bye.